Hello, welcome back. Mike from Canavan Wealth. It's Tuesday, so we're doing Mike Reads the Journal. I am very excited about this one for lots of reasons. Actually, not this reason, but the market's doing really well. So last 5 days, percentage-wise, we've been doing very well, about 3.27%. Down today, but that doesn't shock me because of how well we've done over the last week. And a lot of the days have started down and then ended up. I do want to just kind of quickly cover, this goes back to January of 2020. So this is kind of when the downturn kind of all started. The black line is the S&P 500. The blue line I just laid over the NASDAQ. Where are we from a year and a quarter ago? We're still down about 13.5%. NASDAQ's down about 20%. NASDAQ's had an amazing year, up like 16% or something for the year. Back here at the bottom, NASDAQ was down like 34, I think was the max. S&P was just under 20. This may have actually been worse. Yeah, S&P was down 25 at this time. So we've been coming back pretty well. This big wavy line is the 200-day moving average. So, good recovery. Will we be back to full by the end of the year? Who knows? Well, I'll tell you then. All right, this is really why I was excited. A lot of good data coming out here about retirement and Social Security. So these first two articles are pretty much linked. This is about what retirement looks in America in 6 charts. This is substantial, right? So we all know that the baby boomer generation is a very large generation kind of coming through the workforce and driving what the American economy looks like a lot. And this is probably the best chart to explain it, plus the Social Security one in a minute, that I've seen. So back in 2010, when the baby boomers really started to retire, they were about 12% of the American population was over the age of 65. Drawing Social Security, right? And the projections are that by 2030, that number will be 22%, right? So it will almost have doubled, and within another 10 years, 20 years, it will have doubled. That means the amount of money the Social Security has to pay out has gone up, will double in that time period, right? That's a big deal. We'll talk about Social Security in a minute. Let's look at the rest of this. Average household retirement savings. This comes from a study back in 2019. Market is about flat, so if you go back that far, or up a little bit. So here, actually, it's up quite a bit from 2019. I don't know when it was in 2019. This is talking about 401k balances, retirement account balances. This is by household, so not individuals. And they're saying the average is about 400,000. This is kind of a suspect number in my opinion. This is probably not what I would have expected. I would have expected to be a little lower. So if you are not at this point, it's not the end of the world, right? We'll get to that when we talk about, because you'll see this number. I think they only count households with accounts, right? But unfortunately, everyone has at least some retirement account. You'll see why I'm a little suspect about this number. This is Social Security benefit. Like, effectively, where is your Social Security benefit? And so it's showing here, most people have something between 1,000 and 1,700, but there's quite a few people that have over the average of 1,800. This is so high because this is the max, I'm sure, at the time. Obviously, it can't get higher than a certain amount. So everybody that would have had one higher gets grouped into that. That's why that is so high. Health expenses. This is another great chart, I think, here. This is one I talked to a lot of retirees about health expenses, that they perceive doomsday in retirement, especially late retirement, on health expenses. And your health expenses, usually by the time you've turned 65 or 70, they're not changing that dramatically, right? Are they going up from when you were in your 30s and 40s? Absolutely. But is this like doubling or tripling? Not really, right? I would say your average retiree spends less on healthcare than they expect to. Okay, this is how they spend their time. I don't think that's particularly interesting. This is the one that calls that other chart. So this is a medium household net worth by age. So this is by household, right? So this counts a couple together, and right, they're saying that median net worth is 266, and yet the average person has $400,000 in their retirement account. Something doesn't add up there, right? Because a lot of people should be owning homes. I can't imagine that their mortgage is underwater. So something's going on here that doesn't add up. This is the number that I more expect to see as an average, right? I mean, I don't work with your average American. I tend to work with ones that have something to work with, in terms of wealth. So this doesn't surprise me at all. And I think if you're in this range, that it doesn't mean that you will never retire. Of course, you're probably going to be very dependent on Social Security, which is the next article we're going to talk about. So this is Social Security reserves projected to run out earlier than expected. So I did some videos on Social Security about ways it's changed for the better. This is talking about some more recent things, specifically inflation, that have weakened it. And effectively, they're saying it's going to run out a year earlier than the original projection. This goes back to a 2008 study that, kind of projected how Social Security was going to be coping with the changing demographics in America. And the answer was not good. But this is really fascinating to see, because this is the Social Security trust fund balance. And I think the biggest thing that people don't understand about Social Security is it's not facing a crisis because of mismanagement, in my opinion, right? I don't think that the government who runs Social Security is doing a poor job, and because of that, it's going to run out. Because back in 2008, I'm going to use my face to cover this chart. This is 2008 when that study came out. That is what the trust fund balance had looked like for 8 years, steadily going up. And then they released this study that says, look, this is not going to last forever. And in fact, we're going to go through a really tough time here because of, effectively what we just talked about in the last article about changing demographics in America. And of course, now we have 12, 14, 15 years of more data, and exactly what they thought was going to happen is happening. These level out as baby boomers start leaving the workforce. And then if we know that as more and more of them leave and go on Social Security, this is going to be an issue. Now, there are some really interesting things down here. It says, okay, so what would we need to do to keep the program solvent for the next 75 years? I'll put my up here. We'd have to raise the tax rate from 12.4 to 15.8 on everyone, which means everyone would have to pay 3.4% in taxes. And these taxes are not avoidable, by the way. If you tax deductions and things like that, you pay these Social Security. My son, who gets virtually everything back, he still pays his Social Security FICA taxes, often referred to. The other option here is to split it in some way between raising the cap on Social Security taxes, which almost undoubtedly they will, and raising Social Security tax. But you can't just raise the cap. There's not enough people that are over that cap to in my opinion, to move the needle that much. I don't have a study or anything that shows that, but based on the number of people that exceed the cap, you would have to make that cap. So you'd have to make it infinite. And even then, I think you would struggle to get it all funded. So you're going to have to raise it on everyone in some case. They also say if you just cut benefits right now by 21.3%, then the program, the program would remain solvent. That's not going to be popular, right? You're not, as a politician, you're not going to get a lot of votes to go out and tell all the retirees that their Social Security is going to get 20% smaller. And quite frankly, there's a lot of people who live solely on that. They've established their kind of quality of life based on this, and a 20% cut to their monthly income would be, sorry about this, can't really turn my phone off in case something important. So, this is probably not going to happen. Right now, my guess is if they do nothing, and in 2035 we're still in this thing, they're going to start borrowing, which is not a good solution. I would like to see them fix this before that. It's going to have to be raising taxes to collect Social Security, because I don't think anyone's going to cut benefits, including when they come, which is just going to mean more borrowing. All right. So then the rest of the article really just goes on and talks about the fact that because inflation has been so high, Social Security is affected by inflation in two ways, right? Wages go up and thus they collect more, but also the payment that they go out. And because of this imbalance of workers, the part where they're paying out more is winning. This is interesting right down here. So in 2022, there were 2.8 workers for every person that's receiving benefits, which is down from 3 from the time period before, and we expect that ratio to fall to 2.3, right? So we effectively there used to be 3 people working for every person on Social Security, and that's going to go to 2.3. Why is that important? Social Security does not work where the money that you save goes into some pot for you. Effectively, all the people paying into Social Security, that money just gets immediately used and turned around to the people that are receiving benefits from Social Security. It has the trust fund, which accumulates any type of excess, which is important for the way that it operates. However, the people working are effectively paying the people that are no longer working. That's just how it works. And for effectively a 0.7 over 3, that's a 20% reduction in the number of people that are working versus receiving benefits. You cannot manage a program well enough in order to overcome that, right? You have to tax more. So Social Security still struggling. There have been some changes to it recently. It seems like all those changes have been counteracted by inflation, and just there's no way to overcome this changing demographics of the number of people that are retiring, right? We're gonna have to make not only are there more people retired, but they're living longer, substantially longer, right? Used to be that you'd retire at 65. Most people are dead by 75. Now you retire at 65, and there's a really good chance that couples are living into their 80s and 90s. So, all right. Last topic is here on NATO. So Finland joined NATO today, which is a big deal if you look at the map of the world. So this is the NATO website, and here's Finland. Right? This entire border with Russia almost doubles the amount of border that NATO shares with Russia, right? And Sweden is quick on their tails. There were some political differences between Turkey and Sweden that had to be worked out, but they did get worked out, and I believe they'll be behind in a couple of months. So if you look back, I just kind of pulled this up, was kind of educating myself a little bit on Russia. This is the old USSR if you include the pink, right? And so these guys have already joined NATO, and now Finland will be joining it. It's a big deal to Russia and the rest of the world. Effectively, the NATO border got pushed substantially closer to Russia. Why is this important? A lot of people speculated that one of the reasons that Putin, Russia, the oligarchs, the leaders of Russia wanted to start the Ukrainian conflict was to weaken NATO. The thought was that they believed that because of Europe's reliance on Russian gas and their having little appetite for a war, that the attack on Ukraine would actually fracture NATO, and that all of the current member countries would fight about what should be done about it. And they kind of assumed like half of the countries wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize their relationship with Russia, specifically because they sell them natural gas, and that the other half would. And effectively, NATO would fall apart or weaken in some case, while Russia's position would strengthen because they would take over the Ukraine, which, to be perfectly honest, without Western assistance, I don't think the Ukraine would be doing as well as they are. Ukraine has the early part of the World War was definitely an incredible display by the Ukraine, but I think their ability to fight this war of attrition that it has turned into in Russia would be pretty tough. But that didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, but now we have two major holdouts in this that kind of, because of their proximity to Russia in many ways, have now joined NATO, which is Finland, and then Sweden will soon be on it. And then, of course, Ukraine has applied for NATO membership, but one of the stipulations of NATO membership is that you cannot have any current border disputes. So there's a very good chance that Russia will continue this war as long as they can, even if it becomes nothing more than a border dispute, to prevent the Ukraine from joining NATO. Now, NATO, of course, has the power to change that, but we'll see. All right. Jump back here. that is it. We have the seminar this month on the changing middle class. If you enjoyed the video, please like it. If you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe. Otherwise, I hope this has been informative, and I will talk to you soon.